Okay, we are going to do our last grammar lesson of the week, and our last grammar lesson involves something called a participial phrase. It's really hard to say, participial phrase. So we're going to write our name at the top. So a participial phrase begins with a participle and describes a noun. Participial phrases are formed by using past and present participles. So let's see if we can notice them here in the examples. The children playing with the puppy leaped for joy. So right here we have playing with the puppy. And all those words kind of go together, playing with the puppy. And we have our ing. So that's a present one, isn't it? Present participial phrase. Mariella returned to find her picnic lunch covered with ants. So these words all go together to make a little phrase. And this one is a past participle, right? Because it has ed. So this is called a participial phrase. It's a short group of words that goes together to make a little phrase. So it also tells about the subject, right? So it says this thinking question says, which phrase contains a participle that tells about a subject? So this tells about the children, they're playing with a puppy, and this tells about her lunch, which is covered with ants, right? Okay, so we're going to underline the participial phrase in each sentence, and we're going to do 1 through 3. And then I'm going to let you do 4 and 5, and then we'll check them. And then we will do, how about 6 and 7, and then you're going to do 8 on your own, okay? All right, so we're going to underline the participial phrase in each sentence. Ants scurrying, I see an ing, through the grass are in search of food. I think that they're scurrying through the grass. That's our phrase because I'm seeing the ing. And this goes together. Scurrying through the grass is a nice little phrase. All right. Let's see if we can find the next one. Ants chewing on dirt are expanding their nest. So I'm going to underline chewing on dirt. That seems like a consistent phrase to me, chewing on dirt. And here's what they're doing. They are expanding their nest. Ants working on their nest are ignored by the people above them. So I'm probably going to say working on their nest because I'm seeing the ing. Here's the verb, are ignored by the people above them. Okay? So let's see if you can find the participial phrases in the last 2 sentences. Look for ing and look for ed. All right. Leafcutter ants have jaws adapted for cutting leaves. So I'm looking at adapted because it has an ed. And I'm probably going to say adapted for cutting leaves is the phrase. This is the actual verb here. Leafcutter ants have jaws adapted for cutting leaves. All right. And number 5, leaf parts carried in their jaws arrive back at the nest. I would say carried in their jaws because that has an ed, right? That's our little phrase. Here's what they do. They arrive back at the nest. All right, so those are the 2 participial phrases that I found. All right, now for 6 through 8, we're going to write a participle based on the word in the parentheses to complete each participial phrase. So we're going to either use an ed or we're going to add an ed or an ing. So we're going to have to figure out if it's past or present. Okay? So that's the key to this past is going to have ed. Present is going to have ing. Right? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Ants nest beneath the rocks were left alone. Were left alone. Ants nested beneath the rocks were left alone. Ants nesting beneath the rocks. I think it's nesting. And this would be our phrase right here. Right? Nesting beneath the rocks. All right. It didn't tell you to do that, but I'm circling it. Ants often do not escape alive from the nest. Disturbing by an anteater or disturbed by an anteater? I think it's probably disturbed. Ants often do not escape alive from a nest disturbed by an anteater. So I think it's disturbed. And I think this is our participial phrase right there. Disturbed by an anteater. All right, you're going to be doing number 8 on your own. And then we'll check it. All right, so it looks like a picnic invading by ants is an unhappy scene. A picnic invaded by ants. I think it's going to be invaded. And this is our participial phrase. All right, so I hope you learned a little bit about participial phrases. And you learned that you can use past and present participles in a participial phrase. And you maybe even learned how to say participial. All right. Thanks for joining me.